going to start. Well, it's nice to be back in this room and see everyone. Welcome to the July 19th, 2021 regular business board meeting of the Lower Merion Board of School Directors. The board believes it's in the best interest of the students and of the district to hear comments from district residents. An opportunity will be given for public comment in person and through the chat feature, which will be read by Solicitor Roos. This meeting is being video recorded and sound for public broadcast, and all participants joining us by Zoom will be muted upon entry. Before we get started with the meeting, I just would like to have a moment of silence in memory of Laith Evans, who was a recent graduate of Lower Merion High School and who was killed in senseless violence a little while ago in Ardmore. So if we could do that, I'd appreciate it. Thank you. We're obviously, all of us in the school district were, very upset to hear what had happened. We wanted to give our condolences to the Evans family and friends, and we want to acknowledge that there were 3 other Lower Merion High School graduates who are the accused, alleged perpetrators. And we know that their families and friends are also in a lot of pain. And so we want to join the community effort to figure out how to better support our youth who are struggling, and we intend to do that. So, and with that, I will turn it over to Superintendent Copeland.
Thank you, Dr. Gilbert. This evening, the significant part of the update is the health and safety plan that the district is putting forth. This is being put forth at this time because in order to continue our progress or our process of securing federal funds, we're required by the end of July to be able to put forth our plan. I'm going to ask Mrs. Schaefer to summarize the plan, but before she does, as we've said throughout this entire pandemic, we're following guidance from the Montgomery Department of Health, the Pennsylvania Department of Health. I know that the Children's Hospital guidance is coming out tomorrow. We've been through a year where we've had our students began remotely, then our kindergarten and special education students came to school, then we hybrid. We had closures throughout the year. Eventually, we began in March to bring students back and to so that we were in some semblance of normality, and we ended the hybrid program. However, we ended the year with students still being required to wear masks. We got further guidance from Montgomery County that said that given our low positivity rate, right now we're at about 0.03, I think it is, in terms of positivity, that we would not have to use masks in our summer programs. No one said anything about transportation until we were up and running, and then we were given not guidance but an order that said you need to wear masks on transportation, just as as you would on SEPTA or any other public transportation. So we followed that. The guidance or the plan that we're putting in place is going to give us the opportunity to be flexible as our guidance changes, so we won't be necessarily coming back to the board or the public. We'll just be responding to whatever is taking place in summer. Right now, our summer programs have mask optional, for instance, and about 50% of the students and 50% of the staff chose to wear masks. and that seems to be working. There's been a lot of talk, as you know, today, the American Pediatric Association has slightly different guidance than CDC. We're not changing our guidance at this yet, but we're watching to see what we may have to do in the future. It's obviously my real sincere hope that we don't have to return to the process that we ended the year with, and it's my hope that we don't have to have hybrid or remote or anything else, but we will follow the science as we move forward. So we've had to consider more than just masks. We've had to consider, we haven't had adults in our buildings other than those who work there. We haven't had community use of school facilities, and we'd like to return to opening up some of those. So those are the things that the Health and Safety Committee has been working on and continues to work on right through the summer. So with that, I'd like to ask Megan Schaefer. She's my assistant for district administration and the senior official on the health and safety, to go over the outline. By the way, we're not going to do a PowerPoint because the actual health and safety plan is part of the board agenda. If you have board docs, and it's been there, I believe, since Friday. So with that, Mrs. Schaefer.
Good evening, everyone. Is it okay if I present from this station? Great. I think one of the key points this evening is that we continue to be living in a pandemic, and everything is subject to change, although I think we are in a much more optimistic position than we were a year ago, for sure. So I'd just like to outline some of the key points of this particular plan, which is a requirement for us to submit in connection with the ESSER funding process. I'd also say that I think there are a lot of pros to where we are, and I'd like to highlight that because those pieces are woven into this updated document. We've talked a lot about the tools in our toolkit. If you'll remember that Swiss cheese graphic that we've now printed and posted around a number of our facilities, all of those tools remain with us. They've been enhanced, and the recommendations that that have guided our work are that, keep those available. You may not need all of them. You may not need, more than a few at a time, depending on what the local circumstances are around incident and positivity rates. So there's sort of a marriage of the different factors that we look at any given point in time to determine what the right formula is for proceeding with how we continue to open our schools. I think it's important to note that at this point we have an experienced pandemic team, that those names are included in that plan. They've been in place for over a year now. We've learned a lot together. We've processed a lot together. And so that team is continuing to stay in place and consult with other team members across the district, and I think that's an important piece of the puzzle here moving forward. Similarly, and probably more importantly, our health services team has been tremendous through this entire process, and has led the way in locally and statewide. For example, with respect to testing, we'll continue with some variation of that program so that we can maximize resources and impact. Contact tracing, that team has been almost solely responsible for doing that for the duration of the pandemic and will continue to do so. They've led efforts to get our community vaccinated, and we will continue that program of outreach. When the opportunity opens up for those under 12, we will certainly coordinate our efforts with the community to get those students vaccinated. It would be also probably a good time for me to remind families who have not yet communicated to us about the vaccination status of their children that we'd like them to do so. That information will remain confidential unless, of course, we're required to disclose that to the Montgomery County Office of Public Health. But that will help us in our planning. It will help us with quarantine situations, and so more information will be sent out again to you following this board meeting for for more information about that. The health services team has also closely monitored trends. They've had a COVID-19 hotline open 24/7, which I think has been a great asset to our work and will continue into the school year. Another pro is that we have very involved local Office of Public Health that has worked closely with us in identifying trends, helping us to problem solve with respect to local incidents that have arisen, particularly as they impact our schools opening and closing. And finally, I think it's important to note the community's participation rates in terms of vaccinations. Our low positivity and incident rates currently in the district are important indicators of what we hope to be a positive path forward into the fall. As Mr. Copeland mentioned, the CDC has issued guidance for schools as they plan for the fall. The Pennsylvania Department of Health and Pennsylvania Department of Education have said that they will not issue separate guidance. So we're looking at the CDC's guidance carefully with our, again, local health department to determine how best to move forward, which is what you see in terms of the sort of substance of the plan. We were required to address specific areas such as masking, distancing, hand washing, cleaning, contact tracing, diagnostic testing, vaccines, accommodations for students in coordination with state and local officials, which I think with the summary I just provided gives you a sense of the ongoing work that we will continue to have in place in terms of keeping our community and importantly our schools safe places to work and to learn. I know that many families are interested about certain particular issues regarding things such as masking. At this point in time, I think, as indicated by how we've proceeded with our summer programs, based on the local rates, based on our consultation with the local health department, we decided to make masks optional. That could still be the case when we open in September, but we have not finalized that yet. And we will continue to review those factors very closely. Again, as Mr. Copeland said, I think our interest is creating as a normal school year as possible, both inside the classroom and as well as extracurricular activities. So we are intending to open those up to the extent we are able to do so safely. And then there are some areas that I know other community members are interested in that are not connected specifically to this plan because they weren't required components. But it's, as Mr. Copeland mentioned, the use of facilities, even things such as field trips, how will we begin to handle those, and volunteers, adults, parents, guardians entering our school building for the purposes of meetings and performances, et cetera. So all of those are components that we will compile and summarize in what I think will be an addendum or a related document to the plan itself. And we'll certainly update you on those pieces, but core to what we're doing and what we're trying to make sure that we are precise on is how we will operate our schools for the purposes of learning, and then all of those extras we will address as well, but in that order. So if there are any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them.
Thank you very much, Ms. Schaefer. I know the Health and Safety Committee has been working for 18 months? How long has it been now? So more than that? It's probably more than that now. So we appreciate everything you've been doing. Are there any questions from the board? Lori?
Thank you, and I appreciate it. And I also understand why you're trying to retain some flexibility with a lot of moving parts. I have actually one question is, we all really want a normal school year in the safest way possible. And for some, a lot of kids, that means, can they go to lunch and learn? Can they eat lunch with their friends? Freedom of movement. And I hope even with contact tracing that everyone can put an emphasis on things that remove barriers from relationship building. And for some people, that might be the mask. For other people, it might be like, can I eat lunch with my friends, rather than being assigned, these people are in the gym and those people are in the cafeteria. So I guess I'm just, I'm hoping the committee is really considering the social and emotional elements of the school program and the school day as a really high priority to get back to this year. And I understand, all the limitations, but, there are kids who moved here who started remote school who still need friends. I mean, I know we all understand this, but I just want to, I hope that in the end we can find a way to make that happen without kids being tied to desks or laptops. And then, sorry, that wasn't a question, that was more of a comment. So can I pause and let you respond?
I think what we've said is we'd all like that. And we'd all like to not have starts and stops. But I think if anybody is a consumer of, the news, and you see various things occurring all over the country, and I've said this, frankly, since last March, this is an evolving situation, and it hasn't stopped evolving. So we'll try and to continue to balance health and safety along with whatever mitigations that we may need to do as we move along. Right now, we're starting off, we hope to start off in September the way we're operating this summer. And that is a mask optional situation. I just have no idea of what's going to happen with the rest of the summer, whether situations in other parts of the country start to move in our direction or not.
Okay. I appreciate that. I saw it in the plan, and I was happy to see you referenced testing out of quarantine and testing to stay, which I think we all know some of the quarantine rule, whatever parameters can be challenging. And I know towards the end of last year, the district was trying to do more of that. So is there anything, can you just talk a bit about that? And is there anything preventing us from just moving forward with that? I know there's a lot,
We don't have authority to do test to stay. That's what we were pushing for. We still don't have authority to be able to test to stay.
Okay, and who would grant, how do we get that authority?
It's going to have to be the Montgomery Department of Health at a minimum.
So they would have to grant us or their school districts that authority?
Correct.
So, are we contacting?
Yeah, we've
them?
expressly asked that from all spring and expressly been told, no, not yet.
Okay. Do other counties allow their schools to do it? Is it just a Montgomery County?
I'm not entirely sure. I don't believe so, but there are some counties who have acted very differently and have seen increases because of it. So, but I'm not aware.
Okay. Thank you.
Shana.
Thank you. So I'm coming at this looking at a different population. My big concern is the group of people who aren't eligible to be vaccinated, because I know we've had a fantastically high amount of uptake from our students and staff. I know in here, and just say it for the benefit of the public, we've had more than 90% of our staff be vaccinated, which I think is fantastic. But I'm thinking more about the kids who are in that under 12 age group, and I was wondering if there was consideration to having different requirements for those two age groups, and if it's decided that wouldn't, like what what the thinking behind that was, because frankly, I'm a lot more concerned about the people who have no vaccination in their group. And if we go forward without having masks required for our younger learners, if there was any consideration into refocusing the ACIT testing to the population of kids who are not eligible for vaccination rather than the kids who are, say, on sports teams.
Yeah, I think there is. You go ahead, Mary.
Yeah, I was going to say, we've had many conversations about masking and talked about it from looking at it at different levels and considerations for requiring it at one level and not at another level. And I think this doesn't prevent us from doing just that if that's what the conditions suggest that we do when we get closer to the school year. So I just wanted to start by saying we haven't ruled that out at all in terms of what we drafted here.
Okay, I appreciate that. I know we're working to try and get to where we are this summer, but I also acknowledge that we have many fewer students in our summer program than we will do
Sure.
when we have a full building, and distancing to the extent that we did this year when it was hybrid won't be available to us.
I think it's going to depend on two things. One, our resources. When we did sort of sentinel testing for our older students, we focused on kids who were participating in activities, and we focused on athletics and that group. And that was a heavy lift in terms of making sure that those kids got tested. Secondly, they were older, and so they were able to tolerate the test more than you would virtually half of your population who are much younger. I mean, 5th, 6th grade, 7th grade is one thing, but K 1, 2, 3, 4, I mean, that's a completely different thing.
Are there any other questions from the board? I just want to make sure it's clear that while we're going to be voting on this evening, that we still will be getting regular updates on the plans, and we'll be able to discuss that and have community input as well at
Sure.
meetings.
Yeah, I think that as Mrs. Schaefer said, there are still things, that we have to work out, back to school nights. And parent conferences and some of those things. Now, we've got a whole series of what we're calling COVID keepers. And so there are some things that that we've learned to do that we want to continue to do. There were parent meetings that some of the parents were not able to attend as easily in person, that they were able to, involve remotely. We don't want to lose that because it gave us an opportunity to bring different people to the table. There's also just different efficiencies that a two-dimensional program is just fine for. And there are other things that once we got back together, we realized, yeah, this really is better to be in person. And you can't as effectively have the kind of conversation that you would. I'm talking professionally now as folks. But so there are certain things that we want to work with our schools with to determine maybe there are ways to bring together some of the things that we learned remotely and virtually and make the delivery system better going forward.
Go ahead, Deborah.
But to clarify, our decision to potentially make a masking requirement recommendation for our elementary or, the under 12 population is going to be based on the recommendations from the Pennsylvania Department of Health, the Montgomery County Department of Health, and the incidence rate and the CHOP policy?
Yeah, right now, and I'm speaking, this is my, I'm repeating what I think I understood from the last meeting we had, was that given the fact that positivity and incident rates were so low, I mean, we haven't had a positive case reported to us for, it's got to be 6 weeks, that, and because of the lower transmission amongst younger students, it was safe to make masks optional. If that changes, then they'd give us information that might make us change too. If the variants continue to be more aerosolized and less droplets, then you may make a different kind of a determination. And if you start to see an uptick.
right, just, that was kind of my question, just a quick follow-up. Is Montgomery County going to put together updated guidance before the school year? Or, I mean,
I have to assume so. I would
okay,
assume.
and do
Yeah.
you have any sense of the timing of that?
No.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Okay, great. Thank you again. At this time, we're going to have our committee meeting reports, and we've had, over the summer, we hold only Facilities and Purchasing Committee meetings in order to keep everything running. So I'm going to ask Mr. Lee to give us your report.
Thank you. Following items were reviewed and recommended for approval by the committee at our meeting 7/15/21 for presentation to the full board tonight. We recommended the list of district bills for approval. We recommended the following items from the purchasing report for approval. A 3-year agreement at $14,059 per year with Lutron for lighting system service contract at Lower Merion High School. $8,860 for emergency tree removal at Penwyn Elementary by Davy Tree. $13,625 for the purchase of 5 predictive stop arm systems from Safe Fleet to be tested on our school buses. $138,215.04 for the purchase of replacement MERV 13 HVAC filters to cover the school year 21-22 from FSI Industries, as well as fuel bids from Montgomery County, the MCIU, their collective bids to cover July 1st, 2021 to June 30th, 2022. We recommended the following district contracts for approval. A renewal with Achieve 3000 for differentiated nonfiction reading content at $17,595. Renewal with College Board for testing 10th and 11th graders at $24,320. Renewals with the following service providers. Amy Barnett for Wilson Literacy Training at a not to exceed amount of $25,000. Dr. Tara Sexton, DMD, for dental services at a not to exceed amount of $6,000. Dr. Timothy Woods, MD, for medical consultations and services at a not to exceed amount of $35,000. Karen Penzarella and Sharon Azurski for occupational therapy services, both at rates of $66.30 per hour. Dr. Tara Doty at Sage Wellness for professional development and services related to DEI at a not to exceed amount of $58,600. A 3-year contract with Illuminate Education for replacement student assessment platform and data system at $87,480 for year 1, $70,230 for year 2, and $67,230 for year 3. A renewal with iReady Learning for supplemental math resources at $9,600. An amendment to the agreement with Right at School for summer camp services through August 20th, 2021, where the operator will pay LMSD the lesser amount of $7,250 or 5% of the fees charged to families for use of a district facility. An agreement with Pepsi to replace the discontinued Coca-Cola vending machines with a Pepsi vending machine. LMSD will receive 30% of the revenues from the vending machine. An agreement with Empire Fitness to provide preventive maintenance of fitness equipment at Harriton High School at $3,600. An agreement with Lumen 21 for services related to LMSD email servers and software at a rate of $1,675 per month. An agreement with Candoris for equipment and software upgrade and 3-year maintenance services related to computer storage backups at $32,687.51. An agreement with Presidio for the purchase of Palo Alto filtering of inappropriate content on student computers when outside of LMSD schools for $19,936.84. An agreement with Netbricks for software to help manage Windows servers and users for $16,570. A renewal with iBoss security software for $76,323.32. An agreement with Optiv for their CrowdStrike antivirus and cybersecurity software for $181,017.34. An 11-month extension with Mobilease for the temporary classrooms at Ballackinwood Middle School through July 10th, 2022 at $9,619 per month. An agreement with the owners of 1850 West Montgomery Ave for a temporary construction easement during the construction of the new middle school. In return, the owners will receive reimbursement of legal fees and costs for a not-to-exceed amount of $30,000, as well as mutually agreed-upon landscaping at the site. We recommended the following change orders for approval. IMC Construction, $23,036.88 for the installation of additional steel lintels in the steel frame, $7,211.23 for rock excavation in February 2021, and $9,381.99 for costs related to relocating a retaining wall. All three of those are at the site of the new middle school. $9,393.81 for borough construction for work related to the addition of bipolar ionization in the cafeteria and isolation rooms in the nurses suite at the new middle school. And finally, we received an update on the construction of the new middle school. The temporary construction easement was finalized and will hopefully be approved by the board tonight. The project continues to track more than $11 million under our original construction estimate. And thanks to coordinated efforts by our multiple vendors, our project managers, and district staff, much of the time lost due to steel delivery delays caused by COVID may be recovered, and we expect the classroom portions of the new middle school, they're tracking to be handed to Lmsb on or ahead of schedule. Next Facilities and Purchasing Committee meeting will be on Thursday, August 12th, 2021 at 8:30 a.m.
Thank you very much, Peter. At this time, we're going to do audience recognition. For those of you who are with us virtually, Ms. LaPere is going to open the chat feature, and you will see a 10-minute timer appear on your screen. You can submit your comments and/or questions through the chat feature, and please begin with your full name and where you reside within the district in order for your comments to be shared. And do we need people to sign up for in-person? Okay, if you haven't already signed up, please do so, and we will start with the people in person right now. So if you can, when Ms. LaPere calls your name, please come up to the microphone and to the podium and state your name and generally what area you live in before you go ahead, and everybody has 3 minutes.
And may I just remind you, if you're going to come up to the podium, please wear a mask. There's some on the counter over there since there's different people there. Katie Calabrese, Amy Krimsky, and then Adrian Seltzer.
And I go here. Sorry, this is my first time.
Welcome.
Hello. My name is Katie Calabrese. As she said, I live in Wynwood, and I would like to thank the board for this opportunity to address them tonight. I'm so glad that the conversation tonight has been oriented toward normal school. That's actually why I came to talk to you this evening. We all know that school-aged kids have borne tremendous burdens over the last year and a half. Even students who thrived academically during the last school year missed the opportunity to engage meaningfully with their classmates and teachers. I recently informally polled some local parents about what their kids missed doing in the last year, and almost all of the responses referred to the extracurricular aspects of school, like recess, clubs, events, and celebrations. As has been previewed by Ms. Schaefer, the way that we can get these things back is aiming for a pre-pandemic normal style school year using the infection controls necessary to support it, no more and no less. We understand that it has been somewhat difficult for the district to get effective guidance and support from the Montgomery County OPH in the last year. It hasn't been totally smooth sailing. But luckily, the schools of public health at Brown and Harvard have issued thorough and practical guidance about how to keep schools healthy, and our district has already planned to implement all of that guidance. Great job. Lower Merion's best-in-class ventilation systems, high levels of staff and eligible student vaccination rates, and proposed test-to-stay program circumvent the need for burdensome contact tracing and quarantine protocols. I have reviewed the HSPs for half of Montgomery County's school districts myself, the other half being not yet available, and almost all of them only call for distancing, potting, and cohorting to the extent necessary. This is also the case for Radnor, Wallingford, Marple Newtown, Haverford, and Springfield school districts. Excessive contact tracing, quarantines, and physical distancing are why we were unable to have a sense of community last year. Why not plan on not using them unnecessarily come September? Treat them as controls that can be switched back on if and when certain infection thresholds are crossed. This is what most middle-of-the-road epidemiologists and public health experts are recommending. Lower Merion has always said that the social and emotional well-being of its students is a top priority. Our district's families need to be able to support each other through trials and experience shared joy. And only slightly less importantly, my second grader would like to play Gaga with kids who are not in his class. When deciding on the district's HSP for next year, I hope you will consider measures that will allow LM schools to rebuild their communities. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Amy?
Hello, my name is Amy Krimsky. I live in Ballackinwood, and I come here as both a concerned parent turned advocate. Over the last year and a half, I realized that our school and our school board has struggled, right? Like schools and school districts all over the country from this unprecedented event. But the consequences for our children over the last 18 months, academically, cognitively, emotionally, socially, are vast. And we are entering our third school year of this. My middle school son will have never known a normal year of middle school when we think about that time. So as we move into this third year of this crisis, I'm imploring the board to start the 2021-2022 school year as normally as possible, with the least restrictions as possible, at least for our vaccinated students. That means full sports with parents being able to attend, productions that parents can attend, others can attend. It means normal recess or BC break, I don't know what it's called at Welsh Valley. School trips, celebrations, graduations, promotions. It also means that we should make full-time in-person school a priority, nothing negotiable like we were looking at July, August 2020. We started school last year with numbers very low, but we started virtually until, end of October when the numbers spiked up. We've been behind the 8 ball this entire time. And our kids have suffered from this. There are consequences to these decisions, not just, what is overall hospitalizations in Montgomery County? These children are suffering. I was just on 2 months ago on a virtual college tour for my older son. And what they talked about was that they're going to have remedial classes for the next few years for college. This is a high, well-renowned college, that they're not going to be able to keep up with college-level work. That's the consequences of our actions. So I came up with this little mnemonic called ACT, basically analysis and analytics. Do we have a sense of how many of our high schoolers are vaccinated? I assume the entire school board is vaccinated, the administration, our teachers, I just heard 90%. Do we know what the students are? Well, I talked in June to the people who run, the students who run the school paper, and they think upwards of 92% of the students at Lower Merion High School, I don't know about Harridan, are vaccinated. You'll never get the numbers like that in the entire country. We should know the numbers, we should know what we're dealing with. See, communicate regularly, communicate too often. You cannot, in a crisis, under-communicate or over-communicate, do it constantly. And T is triggers. What are the triggers? Is it breakthrough cases? Is it hospitalizations? Is it vaccinations? We should know this. So that's my call to action, is make this year, start it out as normal as possible and act. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Adrian Seltzer, and then we have Ruth Jenkin and Christina Chang.
Just before, one of the things that would help us is we know the number of students who were vaccinated here. We don't know the number of students who are vaccinated somewhere else, and that's why when we put out communications, we've asked people to report that. The numbers that we get are really just under 50%. So if there's a lot more, then a lot more folks have to respond to give us that information.
Okay. Hello. Adrian Seltzer, Wynwood. For all the people on the Zoom, please note that you can't continue your comments, so you don't get the full 3 minutes. That happened to me last month. That's why I'm here this month. I went to the facilities meeting last month, and I was unfortunately unable to review the underlying documents since they were posted before 8:30 a.m. meeting. even though some had been received as early as May 21st. Because that option to view in advance is not available to the public, comments made at the meeting by the public are not always as complete or as thoughtful as they could be when you have to rush through something before your coffee. The irony of the board, well, it's not really the board, the administration not being able to set reasonable due dates on administration for documents and agendas for upcoming meetings in a school district that sets due dates almost every day on the 8,600 students is not lost on me. Teachers would not take the excuses the administration gives on why this is impossible from their students. The board shouldn't take those excuses also. I also have with me the Pennsylvania School Board Association Principles and Governance for School Boards. Some of the things on here include advocate earnestly, engage the community by seeking, building, supporting networks, and generating action. Communicate clearly, promote open, honest, and respectful dialogue among the board, staff, and the community. I want to thank you for your new equity policy and the underlying definitions that are appended. It's really wonderful. But when I looked at last month, you're hiring a company for a diversity, for a, I think it's called a diversity audit. And the company didn't look very diverse to me, but that kind of led me down a rabbit hole. Why was I just thinking about diversity of the people doing the company doing a diversity audit? Why aren't we thinking about diversity in any contract that the school board does? If you are really committed to equity, diversity, and inclusion, which I really believe you are, you should take it further and have that pertain to all the contracts that you have. Also, if the tax-paying public agrees with me about transparency, well, I had to tell the staff stuff, the people stuff you didn't tell them. Please go to Stand Up for Lower Merion and Narberth, FYI, on Facebook.
I did tell them about the 3 minutes. I actually did state that there were 3 minutes. So, and I appreciate your comments, Mrs. Seltzer.
You didn't read the rest of the comments. I didn't get my whole 3 minutes last month because you only read the first thing you hit enter. And that was not the rest of my comments.
I don't know what happened normally.
That happened to everyone else too.
That what was in the chat wasn't read.
No, the first part was, but you can only put so much in the chat.
Okay.
Before you have to hit enter. So please go to Stand Up for Lower Merion and Narberth, FYI, and fill out our Lower Merion School District communication survey. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Seltzer.
Ruth Jenkins?
Morning, good evening. I'm Ruth Jenkins, I'm from Wynwood. I would just like to congratulate the board and the teachers and the superintendents and everybody else who worked so hard during this COVID. And I know that students gave up a lot, but considering the conditions that we were functioning under, I think we did a really super job of getting the kids educated, getting them laptops, getting them back in school when we could, and communicating. So I'm hoping that will be a better year, but you just don't know. But the other thing that I wanted to talk about was the new middle school, which doesn't have a name. We just keep calling it the new middle school. It's like having a baby with no name. So I would like to suggest a contest to name the new middle school, and the submissions should come from the students that will be the first attendees at the school. They would come from the elementary schools and from the two middle schools, and those students from each school would meet together and come up with some ideas and proceed from there. And then, we can have an election or a discussion or something. But I think that because they will be disrupted from their normal, some of them will be taken out of their regular school, this will give them a buy-in so that they are now participating in their own future. And when the name is named, they can feel that they are proud of that. So that's my comment on that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Jenkins.
Christina Chang?
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you for your time. Thank you. Christina Chang from Penn Valley, yes. I echo the sentiments from a lot of the parents and the school board members and Superintendent Copeland that we would love to start September 2021 as normal as possible. Again, this will be the third year impacted by COVID. What I have not explicitly heard, but what I have assumed is that middle school and high school will start 5 days in person, but that has not been stated in any communication that I've read or any board meeting, so I'd like the answer tonight. The other topic outside of school normalcy is school start times. And this has been an ongoing topic for many, many years. And currently it's on hold, the change on school start times is on hold because of the lights on Arnold Field. And this debate could go on for many, many years. Like the Wynwood Civic Association and the township could be fighting this in court for years. So my ask is, what is the plan B? Are there any other creative ways to adjust school start times or end times, or look at the school day more creatively? Maybe it doesn't have to be the full duration that it is now. Other school districts in our region have made changes, and unfortunately, they all have lights on their fields, but this is a debate that will continue in Lower Merion for years to come. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Chang. That's it?
There's no more.
Do you want to respond?
Well, there's no more in person, but we have,
There's more in person.
I thought she said.
There's more on
Okay. First is Peter Solderich, Haverford. Many neighboring school districts have explained their mask policy in detail, including specifying community infection prevalence thresholds at which masks for unvaccinated or for all students may be required in the classroom. Lmsd should very clearly specify the criteria under which each mitigation measure, including in-classroom masking, will be enforced. The district's current mask optional policy is in conflict with both CDC and AAP recommendation, and the district owes parents a lucid rationale for thresholds that would cause classes, grades, or school levels to readopt masking and other mitigations like distancing, etc. What is the district's plan if we see in-classroom spread incidents like the one we saw at Penn Valley in the spring? Next comment is Ezra Wood, Marion Station. School district is rightfully expending considerable effort to follow the science with regards to COVID. With regards to the science of adolescent sleep, we're stuck in a position of waiting for athletic fields to get lights, and if that doesn't happen, which doesn't appear to be happening soon, then we continue to have high school and middle schools both start before 8:30, which is the earliest middle and high school should be starting according to the American Academy of Pediatrics. Why is this extremely important issue always being swept aside or put off at the expense of our students' health and academic achievement? Next is Jamie Selway.
Let me jump
sure.
in then, because that follows. I was going to respond to Mrs. Chang also. We've looked at a number of different situations, but right now, the reality is that if you're going to have a full and vibrant fall sports season and you're going to move an hour later, then we're going to require some sort of lights. And I would really advocate for folks in the community to join us in supporting that thrust. rather than minimize or diminish some of the efforts that would go into making a full program for the kids at Lower Merion High School. I don't think that there's any reason that we can't have what other high schools in all of the Central League have. And I don't know that it's inevitable that it will go on and on. I'm really hoping that that there's a way, in fact, to speed this up. In fact, we've got, I think, final presentations by the attorneys. Mr. Roos, when is that again?
I believe it's, I can tell you in just a second. I believe it's August 30th. Oh, here it is. Oops. August 30th, 7:15 p.m. versus Zoom. Public is welcome to attend.
Okay, and we can publicize that. And I would really hope that folks would attend that and find ways to support the direction that the district would like to go in. In terms of the issue of what happens, again, we will listen to the Montgomery Department of Health. Folks have quoted other authorities, and I'm not diminishing those other authorities, but we are under the jurisdiction of the Montgomery Department of Health, and they're the ones who are giving us, yes, you can do this, or no, you can't do that. And so those are the constraints, the guardrails that we have to move with. Thank you, Mr.
Next is Jamie Selway, Haverford. Tonight, the third most expensive item the board is considering is a $58,600 consulting engagement regarding, quote, racial equity, end quote. What specific services are included and how will performance be measured? At last month's meeting, the board approved a $150,000, quote, equity and inclusivity audit, end quote. How much will LMSD spend on programs and training relating to equity, anti-racism, and associated concepts in 2021-22? What portion of the spending relates to training for LMSD staff? What portion relates directly to students? Next comment is Jamie Baseman, Ardmore. While it is understood that the guidance on masking will come from the county to the districts, I implore the district to be creative in considering different approaches to the elementary school compared to middle and high school. Please universally mask at elementary school level, but allow for a more flexible mask optional approach for high schoolers. Middle school will require a more creative approach. Thank you. Stacy Walensky from Bala-Cynwyd. First, thank you for a successful extended school year so far. It has been great with no mandates, restrictions. Thank you for submitting this health and safety plan. I believe that young students should start this year without restrictions, mandates. Restrictions at school likely have a deleterious effect on their social, emotional, psychological, and even physical development. At this phase of the pandemic, I believe they are unnecessary because of our high immunity rates, very low incidence rates, and very low levels of hospitalization. You all can approve a plan which puts safeguards in place to reinstate restrictions if this were to change significantly, but please give our kids a chance to start the year off. Next is Kim Lippitz, Narberth. We are thankful that the discussion this year is about masks rather than school closings. Can anyone clarify who exactly we will follow in terms of guidance? I think one way to help eliminate some angst is knowing where our safety cues will come from. I do think kids under 12 should be masked. That population deserves the same protection as our older kids. Middle school is very tricky given the age ranges. Please mask unvaccinated populations. Next is Lori Bomar, Bala-Cynwyd. The children of LMSD should be in school this fall, full-time with no restrictions. Anything less is a complete failure and actively damaging to kids. Next, two comments by someone who didn't identify that they are a district resident. Next is Lisa Maslow, Bala-Cynwyd. I'm writing to express my concern regarding mask-wearing requirements for students, in particular those under the age of 12 or who are not vaccinated. I urge you to make masks mandatory so that the students and staff can safely return to school in some sort of normalcy in the fall. Today, the American Academy of Pediatrics announced updated guidance urging masks in schools for teachers and students over the age of 2. The Center for Disease Control has also recommended that individuals wear masks indoors at K-12 schools. Further, the Philadelphia School District has announced all students will be required to mask when they return to school in the fall. I know and appreciate that this is a heated topic and that some people will not agree with whatever decision is made. However, requiring masks is a small sacrifice for students and staff to make in order to be able to safely resume full-time in-person schools and activities. I hope you will make a decision that reflects the best interests of students and staff. Alexandra O'Neill, Wynwood. Conversation unfolding tonight is very concerning as the parent of an 11-year-old in the district. We are grateful for the Lmsb at-home option last year, and we are eager to have our daughter return to being in school with her classmates and friends. The notion that kids under 12 might be back in the school buildings without masking is incomprehensible to me. Putting our youngest learners' health and wellness at risk is not the way to express concern for their mental health. I am quite honestly too distraught right now to say any more than this. I can't say I'm surprised, but I am deeply concerned. The last comment is Jennifer Freed, Wynwood. Thank you for prioritizing normalcy in the 2021-22 school year. Our students need it. And there was nobody that submitted another comment that would have cost the 3 minutes.
Yeah, so just let me close with, again, we're not looking to start the school year in any other way than we've ended it. We certainly anticipate our middle school and high school being 5 days a week, although there has been a lot of good things that have been expressed about the 4-day for the secondary in terms of de-stressing kids as well as providing support for kids. So there's been a lot of discussion around that, but our intent is to certainly start 5 days a week. And if things change, we hope that they would change in a way that you don't go from where you are to a full lockdown or a full situation. You might see a rise in rates to where the recommendation is to wear masks for a while and then take them off again and then maybe put them on, and then who knows what will happen with various situations. But I don't foresee going from 0 to 60 or back with one fell swoop. But there's a lot that took place this year that we didn't foresee.
Okay, thank you. We're now going to move on to our business agenda. The following item has been removed from the consent agenda for an individual vote. Mr. Copeland, can you please read the recommended action?
Sure. Under item 6A, Amendment Health and Safety Plan, the administration recommends that the Board of School Directors approves the attached amended Health and Safety Plan.
Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? It passes. I'm now going to ask for approval of tonight's agenda through consent. Are there any questions from the board? Okay, do I have a motion to approve tonight's agenda through consent?
So moved.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The motion passes. Mr. Roos, can you please give us a report on the Sunshine Act?
We had one executive session since the last board meeting. It was tonight. We discussed many things. The board authorized the 2022 district-initiated assessment appeals. We had, board was deliberated and was brought up to date regarding the zoning hearing board issue with the new, the Arnold Field lights. There was a discussion regarding the land development litigation and then the new playing fields, discussion regarding budget litigation, discussion regarding assessment appeal litigation, and discussion regarding real estate acquisition.
Thank you. Our upcoming meeting dates are August 12th, which is the Facilities and Purchasing Committee meeting where they go over all of the contracts that we end up reviewing tonight. That is August 12th at 8:30 a.m. Using Zoom. And then August 16th is our regular board business meeting at 8 p.m. right here. So thank you, everyone. The meeting is adjourned, and I hope everyone has a good rest of the July. We're in July, right?